Oh! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this round number 3 of the iAdvance IndyCar Series here from the fantastic Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. It plays host to the third round of the championship, and it'll be next here on RaceSpotTV. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the third round of the iAdvance Motorsports Indy Elite Series here on RaceSpotTV. Streaming live also on iRacingLive as qualifying has just gotten itself underway. As always, drivers will have themselves 2 laps to go as fast as they possibly can. Willington, Randy Chingworth, Aaron Likens here in the booth, and Aaron, it's good to be back, buddy.
Yep, we are back in Auto Club Speedway. This track is fast, but one thing, this track does hold the closed circuit track record, Jill DeFerrin 241, but that was a good 16 years ago. Well, this track now very abrasive, and what we're going to see at the start of this race is very frantic racing because the tire fall off here is drastic, so you're going to have to get the positions while you can.
Yeah, this racetrack used to trade places with Michigan and Atlanta for being the fastest racetrack in the world, Randy, but now this track is bumpy. It's got its track seams, it's got himself the tar filled in the middle. You can see guys there just working themselves down onto the apron for those trying to get themselves a little bit faster in those qualification laps. We're on board with Robert Gort, one of these drivers just heading themselves towards the end of their second flying lap. But this track, it is fast, but it's bumpy, it's abrasive, and it will hurt drivers.
Oh yeah, it's certainly a diff circuit out here, and one of the big things to remember, as you mentioned a little bit, you have those lanes, basically, those seams that go through the corners, which stereotypically here at Fontana, you get in one of those that can really upset the car.
Well, we've got ourselves a situation right now. We've got ourselves about 2 minutes left of qualifications. See a couple of people still on track. Here you'll see Jonathan Goke, 08 Pepsi machine towards the start-finish line. And well, here's a cool little feature that not many people would have necessarily noticed, Aaron. For the first time, we have got ourselves a fantastic digital graphics showing you exactly where these people are in qualifications and in the race as well.
Yeah, and as a driver, as you're running side by side, it is a new thing that these drivers are going to have to adjust to because those numbers are going to change on the fly. Racing an IndyCar 230 miles an hour here, every little twitch, every little movement around you can be distracting, and as you're swapping positions, Well, one thing, you're going to know what position the car you're running is, but on the other hand, those cool little lights can be a bit distracting, as Jonathan Goke does qualify 31.662. That's going to put him into 7th currently.
Yeah, as it stands, we've pretty much got all these drivers now qualified. Marco Basile working himself towards the start-finish line in the number 812 Vortex Sim Racing machine. Onto here, well, that is his laps complete actually. Down in P number 18, 1 minute remaining in practice. 4 drivers have not qualified. They are Enrique Ebo, Jim McClure, Vic Cordell, and Chuck Eisenbarth. So they will either be starting from pit road or not at all in today's event. So we'll get ourselves a look at then your qualification results for this round of the iAdvance Indy Elite Series here on RaceSpotTV. As you'll see at the front of your grid, you will have yourselves a good run. Christopher Demerit, pole position. Bradley Walters in second. Austin Espartee in third. And Donald Strout in P number 4. We'll cycle that grid back, and actually it's worth noting here we've got 23 drivers who's qualified here, Aaron. 28 cars entered into this event overall. What we'll likely see here today is long green flag runs.
Yeah, we'll definitely probably see some long green flags runs here, Will. The track is rather wide, and, you know, we could see some 3 to 4 wide stuff at some point as well. But really, with it being wide, should give drivers enough room to really keep it off one another.
Indeed, so there is a look then at your field overall. These guys heading themselves down to the starting grid for tonight's event. Aaron, long green flag runs or cautions? How do you think it will work out?
Well, this track is very finicky, and it all depends on the weather. Tonight's weather, clear 70 degrees, track a very mild 80 degrees. To about that 100-degree mark, that's when you see the tire fall off be greater. 85% humidity, so typically the high desert, you're not going to see that, but very humid here this evening, and that's going to make the air very dense, going to make the draft exceptional. So expect that 3-4 wide racing. Looking at our lap times, Demerit has a pole by over 300s, which 300s doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're talking IndyCar racing, that is quite a bit. But mid-pack from 7th to, wow, all the way back to 19th, less than 2/10. So I think this could go either way, Will, but I think we are going to see that side-by-side 3 or 4 wide racing. One thing, the tricky spot here, exit of turn 2. I compare it to Indy turn 1. If you worry, well, Indy turn 1 by the time you realize you're in trouble, late. Turn 1 here at Fontana, now Auto Club. Very much the same thing, and for cars that like to pass on the outside, you have to be aware that that car on the inside, if they lose front aero, they are going to come up. So you really don't want to be that car trying to pass on the outside of turn 2, because that inside car will come up, and expect a few yellows from that here this evening.
You just saw that your stats for today is not 24 degrees of bank. I'll tell you one thing, Randy. If we did have 24 degrees of banking, this race would be even crazier. It's 14 degrees of banking, actually, here. Of course, Michigan is its closest comparable track. That's 18 degrees, so it's less banking than Michigan. However, this track is still blooming fast.
Oh, certainly the track is extraordinarily high speed. Back in the day, we'd see speeds of 250 plus mile an hour, but it's something I want to talk about in qualifying. We've only had 2 cars break under the 10th barrier. Riley Walters in second place at 31.504, and then Christopher Demerit out there on the pole at 31.472. They're kind of, you know, I expect them to really stretch their legs and get a good lead here at start with a pace difference that large, which, I mean, 2/10 normally the sort of racing I do. That's not a lot, but when you're talking about 200 plus miles an hour, 2/10 is a very, very large distance.
Yeah, we did just see that. As these guys headed themselves on towards the racetrack, we saw one driver just slow, not being able to get that car started up immediately. 1 lap worth of pacing here, so these guys have got to get moving very quickly. It was the number 3 machine, by the looks of it, who was that driver who we saw. But Christopher Demerit will bring the field here to the green flag, the number 144 machine. It is a beautiful, early spring afternoon into early evening here in California. Of course, California is a state which has so much racing pedigree. It's got itself a Staples Center, the Rose Bowl, it's got itself the Coliseum, and also, of course, this Fontana. You've got yourself the Auto Club Speedway, opened by Roger Penske himself. Pace car going to head itself off of turn number 4 on towards pit road. Welcome to the iAdvance IndyCar Elite Series. Green flag in the air. 150 laps will start now.
Christopher Demerit got himself a very large gap going down into turn 1 there, Will and Aaron. That was a very, very good start by him, very decisive, as the rest of the field pretty much fans out single file as the best they can.
Yeah.
Right now, this is when the drivers are going to have to attack. These tires will not be fresh for long, Will. They're going to have to really push. And one thing about the qualifying race that we saw the leaders, we've seen all the time in 16th other races we do. You can have a car fast in a straight line, but as soon as you get into traffic, you fall like an anchor.
Yeah, that outside line, inside line will be an important thing over this race. Get that ticker running then along the top of your screen. Brought to you by iAdvance Motorsports and Rick Motec. Free wide down your pack early on in this event. We've got battling going on. There's Tim Holgate in the 08 car with Jonathan Koch. And also there's a bookbinder there in towards turn number 3, Randy.
Yeah, they're coming off turn 3 and 4 now for the second time. Jonathan Goh qualified himself in the 7th position. Definitely looking to get himself to move back up. Some pretty fun racing going on in the back. We had 3 wide coming off of 2 there for a moment. But like I said, it seems like everyone right now is just trying to get themselves situated, get themselves into a decent position to work themselves forward. They don't want to get too crazy going 3-4 wide plus, but no one's definitely sitting to just hang out as well.
Yeah, one of the things about this race as well is that at the front you can work together to pull away. Michael Peters, Tim Doyle right now pretty much sat nose to tails. We're going to ride on board then with Tim Doyle. You can see battles going on in front of him. We'll cycle that camera back and you can see there is Michael Peters just behind as well. And this battle for P number 9 on track. And actually, car going very slowly was Nathan Bookbinder there off of turn number 2. Did he actually hit the wall, Aaron?
No, he got out of it early enough, but had he stayed in it, that's what I was talking about earlier, where you have to know you're going to be in trouble beforehand, and it can be very tempting for the drivers behind to see a driver slow down, go to the outside, but that is the worst place to go. So that's that arrow push as the banking falls off of 2. That arrow push, if you're not prepared for it, you're going to the outside, and if you're not off the gas soon enough, you will cloud that outside wall.
Let's look at the cars then as they head themselves on the exit of turn number 2. 3 wide once again in towards turn number 3. And actually, almost 4 wide for a moment, Randy, as these cars work themselves now on the exit of turn 4. 5 laps now of this race scored complete.
Yeah, people are starting to get a little bit crazy. They're definitely starting to race hard. This is why we love the IndyCar racing here at Fontana. You can see them break 3-4 wide, and it's just almost sort of commonplace here. There's just so much room.
Well, on board with Bradley Walters right now in the number 56 machine. You can see there the digital graphic that we've been talking about on the screens. That will change every time a position is gained or lost in this motor race. So you'll see Walters right now going to move himself ahead up into that 3rd position as he will move up 1 spot over Tony Holloman. This is a battle for 3rd place on track, Aaron.
Yes, battle for 3rd, which they are fighting hard for 3rd, but currently I am amazed at the lead that Demerit has put on. I was not expecting this. So battling hard for 3rd, but yeah, you really don't want to be fighting this hard. This is where it can be very aggravating as a driver because you can crisscross. If you're within about 0.2 of a second, it is very easy to pass, but you go side by side into the corner, both drivers have to lift a little bit more, and the leader becomes just a little further ahead until you're battling for 3rd with no chance at the lead.
Yeah, there's Austin Asperty there. He's actually going to lose a position at least right there in that pack. In fact, he'll lose 3 positions almost in the space of 1 corner there, Aaron. And this is the exit of turn number 4, down towards the start finish line again. Asperty lost out big time.
Yes, he did, and we've seen 3 wide all throughout the field, and Holgate is on the move. Started 8th, he is up to 4th on the inside now, going for 3rd, and momentum up on the inside is very difficult. You have to have a very good working car to be able to be on the inside and maintain the momentum to get the clearance, because that outside does get a run, but it looks like Holgate is going to pull off the maneuver.
Yeah, Holgate's kind of one of our early big movers right now. He started 8th up to 4th. Our other big mover for the early stage of this race is Tim Doyle. He started 13th. After 9 laps completed, he's already got himself all the way up to 6th, and he's going to be eyeballing trying to get himself up into that top 5, Will.
He is indeed. There's a look at the 41's machine of Tim Doyle then. 10 laps, 15% of this race going to be scored complete in the early going. It's not actually. I just done my math wrong, but you know what I mean. Behind Michael Peters, scrapping it out with Andrew Consider on board with Michael Peters right now. Well, we'll give this track about maybe 10 more laps, Aaron. Then we're going to see ourselves these marbles appearing from the outside groove.
And that's going to be very difficult for these drivers. As the tires wear out, you're going to get a little bit of an understeer, so you're going to have to put more and more wheel input. And as you come off a turn 2, you haven't straightened out the wheel because you still need to put the input. But, well, as the banking falls out and as you get into the marbles, especially if only the right rear is there, well, this car now has a tendency to really want to swap ends on exit, and it is a one-way ticket.
Having a look then at these guys down in your mid-pack side by side. Branch and Goke there. Battle for P8 on track. We're on board with the driver of Joe Branch in the iAdvance Motorsports car here on RaceSpotTV as we now work ourselves on lap number 12 of number 150 here.
Based in Indianapolis, iAdvance Motorsports is one of the top simulator training facilities in all of motorsports. Built by IndyCar driver Darren Manning, the iAdvance simulator features a 20-foot long and 8-foot tall screen that wraps 180 degrees around an actual Indy Lights top. iAdvance uses the latest hardware and software to be as close to the real thing as possible, along with the best pedal assembly, steering wheel, and force feedback money can buy, making it the perfect tool to effectively and accurately train race car drivers and sim racers alike. Visit iAdvanceMotorsports.com to sign up today.
Still got yourself a battle between Donald Stroud, Joe Branch, Jonathan Goke as they battle for P number 7, 8, 9 on track. Aaron, fantastic battling right now.
Yeah, Goke's car was loosening up, but it looks like he's probably made an adjustment, and it's not really slipping. He was falling through the field, but he has regained that speed. Side-by-side through turn 3, which when you're at Auto Club, side-by-side is the order of the day. Who's going to have it off of 4? Well, it won't be Goke that time. Branch is going to maintain the position, but Goke's going to fall into the draft, and let's see if he can get something going in 1 out of 2.
Yep, as these guys scrap it out continuously there. 4 of those positions behind, actually, Randy. TJ Mazik, Nathan Bookbinder are still scrapping out. Bookbinder has fallen down this field like an absolute plank right now. He has fallen down in 11 places in 15 laps.
Yeah, the early stages of this race, some of the big movers, both moving forward and moving back. Like you said, Bookbinder started 6th, back to 17th. But we're currently running the 11th spot. We got Paul Jennings. He started back in 23rd, so he's moved himself up 12 spots in 16 laps. But to me, the big story right now, we were talking about a little earlier, is Christopher Demerit. 16 laps in, got himself a 2.5 plus gap to Bradley Walters, which is an unheard of margin of between first and second in the early stages of racing like this.
And it's worth noting as well, actually, Randy, in that Walters himself has a 1 second advantage over the driver of Tim Holgate. However, Holgate is matching him for lap time, so that lap gap could come down in the next few laps.
Oh yeah, it certainly could. Tim Holgate's definitely looking like he can move himself to Bradley Walters. However, no one in the entire field really seems to be matching the pace that Christopher Demerit is putting forth. This might be just a single horse race here for the win.
And Aaron, cautions, the timing of them could well prove to be critical here. We know if you get yourself into a rhythm, you're going to end up having a long green flag run, but you've always got to be wary of these big packs as we're on board with Scott Manifold.
And another thing to note is if the leader has about 3 seconds on second place, they can pit and stay on the lead lap. The tire fall off here can be great enough to where short pitting isn't that bad of an option, as long as you're not going to have to make an extra pit stop coming in a little bit earlier. Well, when you're the leader and you can stay on the lead lap, that is an option. So Christopher Demerit really is going to have this race. He's going to be able to dictate the pit strategy, which of all the tracks we go to, we started at Homestead, saw lots of issues there. This track, not the trickiest to get on, but you can definitely make up some time on entry, but you don't want to pit early if you are going to go a lap down.
An interesting thing to note, actually, Aaron, is the lap counter. We're on lap number 19 of 150. In fact, lap number 20 now of 150. And the reason why I say that, if it goes green, you're looking at about a pit window of 40 to 45 laps. So those tyres will fall off at about 30 laps, and that's why you might see people going onto pit road a bit early if this race stays green.
Yes, absolutely. And right now we have not seen the fall off, which one of the trade-offs is when you do fill, your car is going to be heavier with more fuel. But there comes a point in time where the tire fall off is going to be greater than what the weight advantage is. But right now, Demerit's going just a tick faster lap after lap.
Yeah, as we're looking on board with Scott Manifold there in the 11th position out from Demerit. Last time by was slower than Bradley Walters, and also Holgate was losing time. In fact, Holgate's lost a lot of time these last 2 laps, Randy, compared to Walters and Demerit out front.
Yeah, he certainly have, and that's interesting to see as we're talking about pit strategy. And as you were saying it, Bradley Walters again brings Christopher Demerit in a little bit. Not by a whole lot, but he does go about half a tenth quicker yet again. Christopher Demerit may be running the short pit strategy, might have a setup that works and goes faster really quick, but as he gets deeper into the run, really slows down on pace, and he might be one where we're expecting to short pit here.
Yeah.
I have to add something to that. Remember, Holgate had to come through the field. These tires are very fickle on when you heat them up, and Holgate really had to work to get those positions. And the more you're working the dirty air, the more the tires having to work. So he may have used up the tires a little bit early in the run, which now is showing by being about 2-3 tenths off the leader's pace.
I'm going to see if I can do this one as well as ESPN. Don't forget that these cars have themselves an anti-roll bar, both front and rear, and also a weight jacker that they can use over the course of this event. So for Holgate, he's been using those in-car tools, potentially, Aaron, too aggressively in this event.
And, you know, early on, that's the thing to do. You had to get the positions early. If we should get a yellow, he's going to be right there in the leader's draft. But right now, only 3.9 seconds behind. And if there's anybody that is an expert at getting on pit road, it is Tim Holgate. Of course, Christopher Demerit does have something to prove after Homestead. He was our pole sitter there, but did not take the green flag. So Demerit out for a little bit of a revenge on showing that he can win these races. But Holgate, he's won the first 2 races, and you know he would like to make a hat trick out of it.
25 out of 150 laps scored complete. We're on board with Donald Trump looking to the outside there as they come down in towards turn 1. Nothing he can do. However, let's take a quick commercial whilst we're under green here on RaceSpotTV. We're going to take you side by side. Back in a moment.
I'm Eric Hudek. I'm an engineer at iRacing. I put together vehicle models. Started earlier in the year with a partnership with Mazda and Long Road Racing Engineering, where they supplied us with access to the car data, access to their drivers to allow us to put together really high-level vehicle model, and it's turned out really well so far in the development stages.
These new MX-5s are incredible. Between the BF Goodrich tire and then all the suspension engineering that Long Road Racing and that Mazda has done, I've been very fortunate to be one of the lead development drivers for the new Global MX-5 Cup car. We've done a lot of
Under caution for the first time today here, as we have ourselves an incident involving Richard Haskins and potentially Marco Brazil as well. Whereas we welcome you back to coverage. Let's get ourselves another look at that one. Aaron, we literally cursed it.
Yes, we did. Off the air, we were saying that this race did have the chance of going caution-free, but Marco Aurelio Brazil, wow, just clipped the apron. Apron caused it, and that's very reminiscent of a crash that Lyndike had here in '97, where he hit the spinning car. That's what caught up Richard Haskins, but Marco just barely clipped that apron, took the air out, rear head grip, front didn't, around it went, and we go yellow for the first time.
Yep, there you can see it. Oh, horrible impact there from the Taggy racing machine. But well, out of this event for both Haskins and Brazil. Pit road going to be open this time by, as you can see that, we're looking from on board Christopher Demerit in the number 144 machine. Everyone will come on towards pit road, Randy, mainly because of the fact that they are about 3/4 of a way through a fuel run.
Oh yeah, this is definitely 100% pit stops here, unless you think you got something in terms of fuel, and this is going to be a really important stop. Everyone's going to need to be tidy here, getting the gas and the tires. I think this is going to be a good and important spot, space for us to see whether or not Christopher Demerit can keep his pace or not. Because we saw him early on stretch out that gap, but later on in the run, Bradley Walters was able to start reeling him back in by about half a tenth or so per lap. So if he starts really running away again early on in this run, I think we're going to be looking at someone who's running with a setup and strategy, just has them getting pace early on in the run rather than late.
Really tidy pit entry there for Christopher Demerit in the number 144 machine. Out and away! 8.1 seconds behind him. Walters in second place there. Side by side there. A very tidy pit exit for Bradley Walters, as he looks as though he will be ahead of Tim Holgate. Aaron.
That was very close. Holgate had a very good out, and if he didn't get it, he didn't get it by much. That was very close, and that's what Holgate's going to have to do. And I was curious to see if Demerit's pit stop was going to be a little bit longer, to maybe he started the race with a little bit less fuel, but obviously that wasn't the case. But the question now is, now that Holgate's going to have a little bit straighter shot to the leader, does he have the car that can hang with the leader? Because right now it seems nobody has anything for Demerit.
Yep, well, we'll be back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen, with more after this. Getting ready for the restart here on RaceSpotTV. Your top 8 along the bottom of your screen. Our first caution of the day will be scored complete after 30 laps. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give you a little bit of RaceSpotTV fan immersion as we head back to Green Flag Racing. what a beautiful setting here today, Aaron. This is an absolutely beautiful time to have this race going on at Auto Club. Late afternoon, the sun just starting to set. Fantastically beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know what's more beautiful, the California sunset or this side-by-side battle we had for the lead. Now side-by-side for second as Tim Doyle tries to go to the inside, thinks better of it, which making an inside pass on one very difficult. It's better to try to take it higher entry into one and then sort of diamond it just as Doyle did. Perfect.
Walter's in the wall.
Yeah, Walters is in the wall there, so let's get ourselves a look, see where Walters is. He's down at P number 6 right now. He's running up high. He's losing a lot of time. That car is going to have to try and find its way on towards pit road. I don't think he'll be able to, though, Randy. That car, for all intents and purposes, out of the event.
Yeah, when we're talking about this high, you can't go smacking the wall or expect to really survive another lap and be able to keep racing. He's going to be... yeah, he's basically probably just going to be out of it. He's going to be slow, and it's going to take him a while to be able to even get down into the road. That's extraordinarily unfortunate. We were having a good 3-way, 4-way fight up there for those top 4 spots, and now that just kind of robbed us of it. But looking back up front, Tim Doyle started 13th place in this race, and he's making a move for the lead right now on Christopher Demerit going into turn number 1.
Yeah, there you can see side by side battle for the race lead. Demerit versus Tim Doyle. Tim Doyle will have it out of corner number 2, Aaron.
Yeah, that's about for how long that outside. Here comes Demerit back to the outside, but this is picture perfect Tim Doyle racing. We very rarely see him qualify up front. Every time he gets to the front, it is through hard work. He's up there, not going to lead that lap. Demerit gets it by about half a car, but Doyle on the inside, Holgate on the outside. They're both trying to find a way around Demerit. Holgate's going to... Oh, are we going to come 3 wide out of turn 2, Will?
We look as though we might well be there. Holgate is stalking. He's haunting these 2 drivers ahead of him. Lap number 36 of 150 will be scored complete. This time by, it is currently Demerit from Doyle, from Holgate, from Espati, then Goke. But mano in mano right now with Doyle versus Holgate. This one looks to be easier, but it looks as though the Espati wants to get himself a gallon on, wants to join the party, Randy.
He certainly has. Tim Doyle has kind of gotten on that bottom side. Now able to move back up in line. Having to run that narrow line down there on the bottom was scrubbing off a lot of speed, and that's why Holgate was able to get by. Tim Holgate, though, we saw that earlier when Doyle was alongside with Demerit. There was a chance that he could have put it 3 wide, and I think if it was a little bit later on in this race, he may have just done that. Holgate's won championships before, and I think he's playing this smart.
Well, we have a look now from the rear of the driver of Tim Holgate. Number 2, Snake Bit Racing Machine. Tim Doyle right behind him. Austin Espati right behind him also. But they have themselves a breakaway. Here's the important question, Aaron. Do you fight or do you play as a dance partner for now and fight later on? Because they do have themselves a 0.8 of a second advantage over Goke in P5.
Well, the thing is, the lead here is so important because everybody behind is going to be working harder on their tires. Although Tim Holgate, we've seen in almost every season we've done, Will, he's not a fighter early on. He is going to save fuel. We've seen him many times, a car in front of him 2-3 of a second slower than what he can run. He's going to stay, and as long as there's no pressure from behind, he really the stalker, as you said, he's going to stay there, waiting until the end. And there is a reason why he has won so many championships. That is because he doesn't take those unnecessary risks. Right now, lap 40, what do you get for leading? You do get credit for leading a lap, but in terms of the overall championship, well, nothing. So Holgate, I think, is going to just maintain where he is, save a little bit of fuel, and as I like to say, it's never too early to start thinking about fuel mileage. And Holgate right now, I think he could be running a little bit closer, but I might have trimmed this down a little bit to try to just save just a little bit.
Well, it's interesting to note, though, Aaron, as well, of course, with the caution 2/3 of the way into a stint, a lot of the strategists right now are rethinking this entire race.
Well, when it comes to fuel mileage, Tim Holgate, right now, that's probably not a type of race he wants. Thinking back to the 16th Street Indy 500, where fuel mileage did cost the championship. But, well, when you do have that, that's in your mind. So, yeah, the strategists are thinking at, well, before Randy went and gave us that first yellow flag curse, this race did look like it had that green flag feel, which I just gave this race that curse. But should it go green, the strategists are going to be plotting when can they pit, should they short pit, what's the fall off, and it looks like we have a battle for third as Osbatiste to the outside.
Yeah, this is battle with Tim Doyle and Austin Espartee right now. Austin will end up moving himself up into that third position, Randy, ahead of Tim Doyle behind. Also, good battles going on with Nathan Bookbinder and Michael Peters, and also Tim Miller in the mix in that one as well.
Yeah, and as far as what Aaron said earlier, yellow is my favorite color. But I think what's interesting to note here is during that first green flag run at the start of the race, about this point, same point, if we're thinking from when the yellow flag run began, Christopher Demerit had already had about a second to a second and a half gap. Now from the yellow to this point, Tim Holgate has held within about a tenth or two from the get-go. So Demerit not looking as dominant now that Tim Holgate was able to get himself out front.
Yeah, as these
or
guys...
towards the front.
Well, we can actually see top 15, left-hand side of your screen right now. 2 tenths of a second between P1 and P2. Espartee in third, Tim Doyle in fourth. Joe Bryant trying to take your top 5. And it looks as though the battle down at the very rear of your top 15 keeps on flip-flopping along, Aaron. These guys are mighty, mighty close. Gonna go 3 wide. No, not just yet.
They're partially 3 wide. I would classify that 3 wide as only for a tenth of a second, but I would classify that as 3 wide and so close off the corner. This is, of course, Bookbinder, Peters, Miller, and now Nels. Andrew's going to join the battle. He's going to go to the inside, trying to take 16th place away from Tim Miller. In front of them, they're going to go 2 by 2 into 1.
Yeah. Aaron, wouldn't you ever think that Niles Anders would be battling in P16?
Oh, what a save, Will. What a save. Nathan Bookbinder got loose off of turn 2. In front of that trio of Miller, Anders, and Peters, Bookbinder got loose off of 2, and we mentioned that could happen off of 2. What a save by Bookbinder to stay in this race.
Replay coming up right now for you then. This is in towards turn number 1 and 2. Let's listen in. I'll tell you one thing, Aaron. He didn't even catch a seam there. The back end of that car came loose all by itself.
2 things may happen there. 1, too much steering input on the exit. Secondly, when you're running in traffic, as you alluded to, the in-car management tools. When you're behind a car, it's going to be different. When you're behind more cars, it's going to be more severe. If you've position, that's going to change the airflow of the car. And if you have not adjusted, well, you may have your car set up for the dirty air, which is going to be understeer, so you're going to make your car a little bit looser. Well, when that changes and the dirty air is gone, if you haven't adjusted, your car is now going to be extremely free, and that might have been what caught Bookbinder out. Meanwhile, well, while we were paying attention to that, Holgate has fallen to third.
Indeed so, as also you got now a battle between Joe Branch and Jonathan Goke. This will be 5 on track, Randy. Branch on the inside line, Goke on the outside.
Yeah, these are 2 experienced IndyCar and oval drivers in general. Goke drives a lot of the IndyCar and NASCAR, and well, Joe Branch has been running the IndyCar for I don't know how long. But yeah, very, very hard fight out there. And one of the great things about Fontana, they're able to run those 2 lines. And it's not like one line has really been dominant. We've seen people pass from the outside. We've seen people pass from the inside as well. As actually the car behind Goke, that's going to be Tawny Hilliman, thought about taking the inside into 1, but instead Goke's going to do it to Branch into 1.
Yep, down in towards that first corner they come, and a perfect textbook pass around from Goke on Joe Branch.
But here comes Joe Branch. Is he going to get the toe down the back straightaway? I don't think so, but these 2 drivers have been close to each other ever since this restart, and it'd be interesting to see the lap graph at the end of this race, because it's going to have more fluctuations than the stock market with the up and down, because it seems every lap they are changing position. Here comes Branch. Will he use the draft this time? I think he could have popped to the inside, but this time not going to. Oh, is he? I know that's just in what you're seeing there, Will. You want to run where the car in front of you isn't. The draft is awesome in the straightaway. But in the corners, it's that turbulent air that we talk about. So if a car in front of you is taking a little bit later entry, you're going to try to just dip to the inside just a little bit sooner to try to get some clean air on the front wings.
It's interesting to note, actually, that in terms of those corners, you got 5 different lines. Now, most people will run, Aaron, in 2 or 3 of them minimum, maximum even. They won't run the first line. They'll maybe run 2, 3, or 4 lanes. They wouldn't run on the outside lane, but the marbles will prove to be useful later on. If people are using the outside lane now, well, I mean, the impact of trying to pass high later on won't be as severe.
Yeah, that's very much correct. The longer we run, the more slick it's going to get to the outside. But if more cars are running to the outside, that's going to keep that part of the track clean. So if you do think about wanting to run that, you sort of have to, well, not to use dirt track terminology, but you do have to run that groove in. And if nobody's running up there and you're the first car out there, it's going to be like a skating rink.
It will be. There on the bottom of the screen, your top 8 drivers there. Demerit, 1.2 second advantage again, Randy, over Team Holgate. Demerit's car in clean air is fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm curious what that is. We saw Holgate for the early stages of this run really hang with him, but then when Austin started really pushing Tim hard, we've seen Demerit be able to just kind of skip away scot-free here. What else is interesting is if you're looking back for the battle that was happening between John Goke and Joe Branch just basically lost that tail end to Goke. I'm curious if Branch was holding Goke up at all.
Interesting question. Actually, Paul Jennings right now alongside Tony Holloman in that wider piece of picture. I'm not entirely sure that really one's holding up the other here, Aaron. It's a case of you all want clean air. If you can't get it, you're in survival mode.
Absolutely. If the battle between the two of them, the first car that could separate themselves from each other would break out. And the two of them also, as hard as they were fighting, really were using up their tires. This is why I think we've seen Jennings and Helmanen join the battle. As to the inside goes Jennings, and Branch, I think, is going to be relegated to the 8th position and not too long. And that's why we see drivers fight so hard early on. You want that clean air. And for the drivers that Jennings, if he would have had clean air for the first half of this run, even though he was further behind, well, he has more left in the tires than the drivers around him, and that's what makes Auto Club so great. You can be a little off the pace at the start of the run, but later on with the tires, you can make passes.
Yeah,
we just had a close call with a lapper, Will. Enrique Ebo, as the leaders were overtaking him. Tim Doyle almost misread that. Might have been contact in turn 4. Very close call.
Actually, a little bit of damage as well to number 39 machine of Enrique Ebo, driving, of course, for RFC in this event. Well, there you can see your battle for P2, 3, and 4 will continue here on RaceSpotTV. We will continue as well, as we'll go side by side very, very quickly. We'll be back with more. Never miss a moment on RaceSpotTV side by side. Well, pit stops are underway here, Aaron. Lots of guys onto the lane. And a car into the wall.
And that's Niles Anders. Niles Anders has issues entering the pits and got it. Well, that's going to be, I think, a brake bias thing. Got in the brakes a little bit too hard, nosed it in, but I don't think he got the suspension. So if he can back it up and get back into the box, I think he's going to be good, but lost a lot of time.
Yeah, let's have a look then. On board with Niles Anders. Well, that one started all the way from he transitioned down onto the banking, then pushed back up onto the... you know, I've done that so many times before here, Randy. You just transition onto the flat, and people forget that these cars are staggered. A lot of guys on towards pit road, though. Take us through it.
Yeah, he just down on a pit road, like you said, he just as he transitioned, either he locked up a front or the rear just got a little bit light. And like you said, Nigel Mansell described it when he switched to the Indy car back in 1993. These cars are just preloaded to the left. When they're sitting still, they look like they've already been in an accident. But I think the interesting thing to note here is we're not too deep into this run, I don't think, from our green flag. I think it was about laps when we said our expected pit window was about 40 to 45. So I think everyone here just hit a point where they can make it from here to the end on green, running full tilt, and they just decided to fill up now.
Well, they'd have to do 40 laps here. So, Aaron, they do 2 full stints from here on in. They should make it to the end. It's not the fuel that's important today, though. It is the tyres. As Tim Holgate coming out of pit road, he will lose the race lead again to Demerit. Demerit there. Much better pit sequence there than Tim Holgate. How often have we said that one here?
I don't know. Is it a better sequence, or was it that Demerit had those 2 laps with fresher tires? So that's the advantage of pitting early. You're going to have the fresher tires sooner, and that can be half a second a lap. So that's really the leader dictates the pace, and just that 1 lap on tires can be half a second, which is going to be about 50 to 60 yards on the racetrack.
Yeah, they can see the gap, 1.7 seconds right now between Demerit and Holgate. Most people have done themselves then a second stop here today. Unfortunately, our timing scoring just a little bit messed up, but we can show you bottom of your screen then your top 8 drivers as it stands right now. Demerit still leading from Holgate, then Doyle, then Espartee, then Goat, then Branch and Flanagan, and then Holman. Now, once you got this first pit stop out of the way, actually, Aaron, it becomes easier. The reason why, the gaps are now more spread out.
And the more spread out they are, the chances of the all-dreaded yellow decreases. But on one hand, that can also increase the chance, because when you're running in traffic, you are absolutely focused. When you've got a lull, when you're just cruising by yourself, that's when the mind can wander, and that's when that turn 2 wall can just jump up and bite on any given lap. So, yeah, we aren't seeing the 3 or 4 wide as we did earlier, but as this run progresses, the odds of a mistake by a driver do increase.
Your biggest movers and shakers in the event so far, we'll get that now running along the top left of your screen. You'll notice Flanagan and Doyle are your biggest movers inside your top 10, as well as Paul Jennings. 10 places up, though, for Tim Doyle from where he started. He's one of these drivers that, Randy, he never qualifies well, but he always knows how to navigate the opening segment of an event. He has, though, got himself Austin Espartee 2 tenths behind him right now. And one thing worth noting, a penalty here would kill your race.
Oh, it certainly would. You get a penalty here, you'd almost certainly be a lap, if not more. But going back talking about Tim Doyle, like you said, he never really qualifies well, and he manages to work his way forward. But what always impresses me is he doesn't work his way forward based on yellows or strategy. He races his way to the front. He was up to P4, P5 by the time we got that first yellow about 20, 30 laps ago. And he's basically just stayed his way out here. And he's really started to challenge Austin Espartee and Tim Holgate for that 2nd spot.
Although Espartee's looking alongside there. On the high side is Espartee. On the low side is the driver of Tim Doyle right now. And it looks like Tim Doyle will just about be able to hold that one off for the time being. But on the outside, once again, side by side, battle for P2 on track, and it looks as though, so P3 on track even, looks like that Espartee is having to run the outside line, but what he's doing also here, Aaron, he's pinning Holgate down onto that inside.
Yeah, and when you do pin that car to the inside, they are going to be using more tires, more steering input, and you're going to get a run on the outside. We did lose a driver. We almost did have that yellow that we talked about. Andreas hit the wall out of 4, went through the infield, and the rest up against the inside wall, out of turn or to the entry to 1. So we did avoid the yellow. Very well could have had one, but we do stay green.
We do. We got ourselves a couple of nice packs to show you here. Tony Holloman with Paul Jennings and Andrew Kinsella is one of them. You've also got Joe Flanagan and Joe Branch in that mix right now. Having a look from the rear of Joe Branch, then 70 laps of this event scored complete. Guess what, Randy? We're almost at halfway.
Almost at halfway, and it's been a long day for you and me, Will. We did a 6-hour race just for this, and now this one, which will probably take up about an hour and a half. And luckily, this one's being pretty exciting as we get some John Cena music up in the house.
Yeah, indeed. And we're just having a look there. Joe Branch to Jonathan Goke is currently scored as 6 seconds. That shows you the battle's going on. Some of the packs are very close. Others, not so much right now. As we're just having a look there. Tim Doyle versus Jonathan Goke. Battle on track as it stands. Well, it seems to be that all of a sudden Tim Doyle has fallen behind Austin Esparti, not able to put the pressure back on to get himself that P3 position once again. But let's do a lap on board with the driver of Tim Doyle, and Aaron, talk us through a lap here at Auto Club.
Yeah, you're going to see him going into turn 1. He's going to maybe turn in just, you can see just a quarter of a car width to the inside, trying to find that clean air, then using the entire inside lane. This is all trying to get clean air, trying to save the right front. Going down the back straightaway, you're going to see Esparti turn in. Doyle's going to maybe turn in, yes, just a little bit sooner, trying to get to the inside. And as you get into the tire tracks, watch that car push out to the outside just a little bit, had to lift up the throttle just a tad, use the draft, maybe pop to the inside here, right there, yes, to the inside. And being on the inside, you have to be mindful not to wash up. Where is that car on the outside? You have to keep it nice to the inside and hope that you have the momentum to make the pass, make the clearing, and hope that the driver you just passed can't pull over the crossover.
Yep, Tim Doyle now back up into that 3rd position, so good luck there on board with him. Out of the guys that started, we've got 22 running. We have ourselves 25 drivers that started this event. We've got Marco Brazil and Haskins out of the event. You got yourself Gortis out of the event. We talked about him a moment ago. Then Walters scored laps down on pit road. Enrique Ebo scored laps down on pit road. Andres Eek on pit road as it stands right now. Randy, he has scored multiple laps down as well.
Yeah, and that's certainly unfortunate for him to be there on pit road, getting repairs done to that car. 5 laps down currently, but I think who's really happy about Tim Doyle and Austin Esparti, except for the 3 of us up in the booth, that there's some exciting racing going on. John Goke, he started himself back in 7th, has himself up to a solid top 5, and as the more and more these guys fight, the more and more he's going to get closer, and he's going to be able to really start possibly fighting with these guys for that last podium spot.
We've got Donald Strout and the Team RFC machine then working themselves side by side with the driver of Scott Manifold. Of course, Manifold is a hallmark of the IndyCar series through his organization of the 16th Street Racing League here, Aaron. And, well, Manifold showing that he can race as well as he can do league administration.
Yes, he can, as he's going to look to the outside, making the outside pass into 3 does take some bravery. And not going to get it done, but this is where you can see the crossover. You're going to have more momentum. Use the draft. Come on, use the draft. Nope, he's going to stay to the outside. I think he may have been able to make that move, but given lots of room, and, well, if we were in the final third of this race, I think we would have seen a move. But Manifold right now seems to be content to give a wide berth and not risk his car or the car of his competitor.
Well, it was a pretty tidy move there. Actually, he's going to get a good run down to the inside, in towards turn number 3 and 4. And Aaron, that is what we like to call a tidy maneuver.
That's what some people would like to call. I call that a very great pass. Great pass by Manifold, and let's see if Strout can come back to the outside. Yes, he can, and that's when you make a move, you have to try to be able to complete the move and get a wide enough margins to shake that draft. If not, you're going to be stuck in the crossover game as, ooh, Manifold got loose out of 2, and Strout goes to the inside, almost contact.
Yeah, side by side they'll go once again in towards turn number 3 and 4. as these guys work themselves now onto that 14 degrees of banking. Lap traffic there coming into play as well. Down in your parking. Well, you got to be careful here. On board with Scott Manifold in towards turn number 1, Randy.
Yeah, we're going to ride on board. Actually, Enrique Ebo spin into turn 1, Will. Enrique Ebo caught the wall. He's spinning off of turn 1 down into the infield. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not we get a yellow flag from this, because it is off the racing surface.
Yeah, as it stands, Enrique Ebo's race is done, but he will not bring a caution flag out. Replay up then, show you what happened from Enrique Ebo's perspective. He was batting it out with one of the RSC cars, and of course, the driver of Scott Manifold in towards turn number 1. Well, that's the second time we dodged a bullet here in this event here today, but that one could well not only have been a caution, but a big incident. And actually, I look at that one again, and Aaron, it's a bit weird the way that one unfolded.
That's called being too nice. Of course, his car was damaged previously, and when you have a damaged car, you do not want to be that guy that destroys another person's race. But he was just being too nice, and if the safer wall weren't there, he would have made the corner, but the safer wall juts out just a little bit right into his car, and I think he was more concerned about giving Tim Miller room, and, well, that's his race over.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm curious of. I mean, it almost seems like he was so concentrated, focused, looking at that Tim Miller car that he just lost track of where the outside wall was, and he more or less just drove himself into it. I don't know if he was trying to be too nice. I think he just made a misjudgment.
Now, Phoenix also has
No good
a similar
deed goes
incident.
unpunished.
I know, right? And it's a shame because, of course, the RSC cars and what they stand for as well, one would say it's a bit of a cruel irony, to be nice. But, Aaron, it is worth noting that the pit wall here, it's a bit like Phoenix, I'm going to be nice. Phoenix,
Phoenix,
yeah.
on Phoenix.
Phoenix, where you do have yourself that wall jutting out on the run down in towards turn number 1, and it can catch drivers out.
Oh, absolutely. Most tracks you are used to the wall being flush, but now with the advent of the safer wall, which thank goodness, but that does add that extra foot that used to be real estate you could run, but now you can't, which Auto Club doesn't have it in the nice sweeping dogleg that makes up what they call the front straightaway. Not straight, but that just little bit of a jut out. I think if it weren't for that, he would have been okay, but yeah, he was more focused on the cars behind him than hitting his marks, which his departure, well, one person that's very happy didn't bring out the yellow, Christopher Demerit, but there's about 16 other racers that would have loved to have seen that yellow flag fly through the air.
Oh, yes, indeed. Especially guys that are close to going down a lap here in this event. People like Nars Anders, who did get himself a new front wing, but he is now about to be lapped by your race leader, Christopher Demerit. And, well, Anders, down in P number 15, will mean only 14 cars soon to be on the lead lap. It would be worth noting around how can Demerit handle traffic.
He isn't, Will. He isn't. The lead was up to 2.1 seconds. We are down to 1.3. Demerit's times are off a tenth and a half, so he can't do anything with the car of Niles Anders currently. You would think maybe he's trying to save fuel. Oh, no, he's not. He has slowed up. Tim Holgate has turned it up and is reeling in. This is where you would think, Will, do you short pit? If you're stuck behind a lap car, do you make that stop? Do you get those fresh tires? We pitted on lap 60, so if 30 laps is what we're looking at, we're just about 5 laps away.
Well, if this race goes green, go on.
I was going to say, the other thing you might have to think about is Christopher Demerit, the way he's able to run from these other guys is very impressive, but he's only been able to do it when he gets out front. There was a point where he did get passed, I believe, by Austin Espetit for the lead for a short time, but he was able to get it back quickly. I have a feeling he may be running this car very trimmed out, and if he gets stuck behind, let's say, Tim Holgate or Austin Espetit, if they're able to get by in some fashion, we may be seeing Christopher Demerit really struggle to get that lead back. He may not have the arrow to work in traffic.
Yeah, as we have a look then on board with Christopher Demerit in that number 144 machine, and it's worth noting that gap is now down to 1.1 second between himself and Tim Holgate, Aaron.
Yes, and whatever Niles Anders runs is what our race leader runs. And Niles Anders has every right to do what he's doing. He's just trying to stay on the lead lap. there is no reason for him to cede the position. He is the last car on the lead lap, and with Demerit's arrow, he simply cannot make the move, and Tim Holgate's going to be closing in a hurry.
He will be indeed as your top 5. Demerit from Holgate, from Doyle, from Espati, from Jonathan Goke, as we've got ourselves battles going on up and down through your field here. We're past halfway distance, lap number 88 on 150 here on RaceSpotTV. Streaming live also, of course, on iRacingLive. And this, I love this angle. These guys just blasting past the wall through turn number 1. But you do see there, little packs and then a big gap. Little packs and a big gap there, Randy.
Yeah, you certainly do, and that could be just the difference in engineering levels of these cars. The Indy cars, of course, sort of famous for it. It takes a lot of work to get this thing going fast. And talking about getting it going fast, that gap, though, at one point, just a handful of laps to go, that was 2 seconds, is now down to just 0.8. Demerit is falling like a rock in regards to pace.
Also, Tim Doyle back up to the rear of Austin Espati here, Aaron. We're going to have to find out whether Tim Doyle has what it takes to stay in the coattails of Austin Espati and maybe find a way past him, as we know we're about 15 laps away from the next round of green flag pit stops.
And as the pit stops do come up, that's when we do see drivers try to make those moves. And behind Doyle, Jonathan Goke, who was, I think he was very far off of this battle 15 laps ago, is going to be joining it. So a three-way battle for the 3rd position. And this is Doyle's type of race. Of course, we saw him at Homestead in our last broadcast. Well, we gave him one of the best drives ever on the last green flag run, coming from, what, 18th to second, 3rd, an amazing drive. So Doyle, he loves just putting on a show. Don't know, he'd probably like to start and pull and just run away with it, but for us commentators, he always puts on a good show for us.
Joe Bryant's running himself in P7 in that iAdvance Motorsports car here on RaceSpotTV.
Based in Indianapolis, iAdvance Motorsports is one of the top simulator training facilities in all of motorsports. Built by IndyCar driver Darren Manning, the iAdvance simulator features a 20-foot long and 8-foot tall screen that wraps 180 degrees around an actual Indy Lights tub. iAdvance uses the latest hardware and software to be as close to the real thing as possible, along with the best pedal assembly, steering wheel, and force feedback money can buy, making it the perfect tool to effectively and accurately train race car drivers and sim racers alike. Visit iAdvanceMotorsports.com to sign up today.
Ladies and gentlemen, you'll see there, Brian still running himself in a P number 6. More pit stops though. Go Flanagan, Jennings on pit road here, Randy.
Espati as well. He's going to be entering the pits too, and it's going to be interesting to see what our leaders do. Christopher Demerit, I think we're getting radio transmissions that he's going to be coming down pit road. It's going to be interesting to see what Tim Holgate does. Now, if I'm Tim Holgate, one has to wonder, I see Christopher Demerit out here struggling in this dirty air. Do I maybe try to do a bit of a short fill to get out ahead of him, just any way I can to get him in that dirty air?
Okay,
That's Demerit with a big lockup on the pit.
Yeah, and that was very, very close, but these guys both make it onto the lane there, Aaron.
Oh, and that's the tricky thing. When you follow a car in, it's very hard to gain time on them. It's going to be who can ever box in and box out quicker. And maybe do you take a gallon less to try to get that lead? Doing the math on, we did 32 laps that time, so 1:18 our marker.
Wow,
I think even if you short fill, I was gonna say, I think even if you short fill here, you can still do it on 2 stops. And actually, Tim Holgate didn't take that option, but I think that would have been an interesting thing there to really think about. Is you can even short fill a little bit, still make it. And he could have gotten himself the lead.
Oh my word, look at the run he gets there over Demerit, out of pit road, lapped car involved as well. Tim Holgate right in the rear of Christopher Demerit into turn 3 there, Aaron.
Yes, Scott Manifold came out in front of the 2 leaders. That jammed up Demerit. And now we are going to be nose to tail for what will be the lead once we cycle around. Holgate's going to go to the inside. He knows he has to take the lead. Give Demerit that dirty air. Make him use his tires. This battle right here, it may not be the last lap, but this does have implications as we get to the end.
Yeah, we see that. That was easy by Holgate over Demerit. Maybe Holgate knew it was crunch time. Will Demerit come back immediately? He's looking to the outside. Into turn number 3 and 4. Race on, Aaron.
Race on, looking to the outside, make Holgate use the inside, now use the draft. Holgate's going to stay low, pop to the outside, goes Demerit. They're going to go side by side into turn 1, and I like that outside line into turn 1. Pin Holgate to the bottom. Holgate needs to be completely clear to be able to drift up, and he does do so. So that attack is thwarted, but it's not over yet.
Lap number 96 going to be scored complete this time by. Here's the thing though, Randy. If you're Holgate, you need to stay ahead because you know that Demerit's car does not work as well in dirty air.
Yeah, especially you can actually see that as they run almost every single corner. It's not just that Demerit's looking, trying to make the pass. Every single time they go through 3 and 4, if Demerit doesn't have the run, he runs about a groove to a groove and a half higher up the racetrack. And you can even see it. He gets in the middle of the corner, and when Tim Holgate goes to exit the corner and gets in front of Demerit, Demerit just falls back and loses any momentum he may have gained on the outside. I think Demerit's just running that car really trimmed out.
And that's why we aren't seeing him. He could attempt to make these passes on the inside, but I think he knows his car won't stick down there. So the tactic would be keep trying to make passes on the outside, make Holgate run the lower line, make him use his tires, and maybe later in the run the pass will be easier. But right now, several times, Demerit, I think, could have popped to the inside easily, but right now it doesn't seem to be an option for him.
I think for Demerit, what he's trying to do is unsettle that Ubuntu number 06 machine of Tim Holgate. You made a good point there, Aaron. Even if he doesn't get the race lead right now, what he is going to do is start wearing those tyres away on the 06 machine, pinning him down to the inside lane of that racetrack. And well, we know how good both of these drivers are, both physically and strategically. Demerit, though, cannot hold that third groove, and almost into the wall goes Tim Holgate.
And that's exactly what I refer to. Make him use his tire. Make him really cook that right front. That he's really having to put a lot of steering input to hold that white line. And you're not going to be able to do that the entire run. Now for Demerit, he has been getting really close to not only the outside wall, but Holgate on entry. You really don't want to risk your race here. Very close. Still 50 laps to go. But I think Demerit might be a little unsettled, just a little flustered from how Holgate got the lead.
Yeah.
Good.
Go on.
I was going to say the other thing to possibly think about is if Demerit's car doesn't work well in dirty air, even though he's holding Holgate to the bottom, he may be still using his tires just as much as Holgate is to make that car turn on the outside. If he's just getting so much understeer from the car, yeah, holding the outside may be easier, but if the car doesn't work as well as Holgate's does, he may be struggling regardless.
So you were saying there that regardless of his in-car tools, regardless of anything else, he could be in a situation that Demerit, if he doesn't get past soon, will end up falling back by a couple of seconds in the next 15 laps.
I just think they might need to hire Adrian Newey.
No comment. Behind, you have got yourself a bit of a scrap going on between Tony Honeyman and Joe Flanagan. This is a battle going on down in P number 8 and 9 right now. 8 tons per second separating those two drivers. It's a battle, but Demerit back to the race lead there. Demerit going for the lead. Demerit will almost take it away from Tim Holgate through turn number 1, through turn number 2, down the back straight away again. Aaron, this one continues.
Yeah, I think that we could be in this battle for the next 48 laps. I don't know if we've seen this much side-by-side racing since we saw Trost and Holgate just swap positions every corner at Pocono a couple seasons ago in 16th Street. But right now, this side-by-side racing is just a beautiful thing to behold. And when it comes down to the end game, if they come in together and out together like last time, well, now you got to be thinking, if you're Demerit, okay, if I can't get around him, what can I do to be at the lead at the line? I don't think it's too early to start playing out that game of how do you come off of turn 4 second and take the lead between there and the finish.
Well,
something else to possibly go ahead. Go ahead.
You go.
No, fine. I'll go. The other thing to maybe think about is we're getting really close to the point where you can pit and make it on green.
118.
So yeah, I believe it's 118 is the number. So if you're one of these 2 lead cars now, do you gamble and stay out and maybe have the dirty or the bad tires through, or do you maybe gamble and pit early and gambling that it stays green, and you'll have the new tires towards the beginning.
I would say it doesn't matter. It will come down, in my opinion, Aaron, to who's got the biggest balls coming towards pit road.
Well, I think we know if Demerit takes the lead, he's going to keep the lead, minus a yellow. Or lap traffic, which we are going to have, but I'm Demerit. I would pit early. Because right now, he can't do anything with Holgate. We know he has the fastest car, so if he has clean air, but that's one thing that the crew chief and spotter are going to have to realize. What is the in time? What is the out time? Yeah, you can pit early, but if you're going to come into one of the big packs, that does you no good at all. So you're going to be looking for that window when you can make it, and it's about 3 seconds. Wherever you're running, if you have a perfect pit stop, it's going to be about 3 seconds behind you running where you can come out. So if you're clear 3 seconds behind you, come in, make that pit stop early. But if you're going to come into traffic, then the advantage is negated.
Aaron, you mentioned it. You mentioned it there. You mentioned the lap traffic. We're going to be getting it really, really soon here. We have Tim Miller just a few seconds ahead of our lead 2 cars here, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Demerit's able to get through and around that traffic.
And you'll notice as well that Holgate is not running the bottom lane all the way across the racetrack. He will start in the second lane and he'll drift himself down, knowing the fact that he can diamond off the corner. It's a technical term when we need to. Just saw a car with smoke there. That is Nathan Bookbinder. He is out of this event then in that number 4 machine. Second look at that one through turn number 2 as he's just going to get himself all forms of sideways. And yeah, he's going to drift it off hard into the wall. We stay
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Demerit for the lead. Demerit man should get down to the inside. Demerit has the lead coming off of turn 2.
Let's get ourselves another look at that one then. Christopher Demerit will lead this motor race. We're on board with him then as he goes to the race lead. Randy took us through it.
Yeah, this was really the first time going into turn 1 that Tim Holgate didn't really defend that bottom as hard as he had been. And Christopher Demerit took advantage of it. He dove down, got down to that white line, and the car stuck. Demerit out front. And although Tim Holgate's fighting back into turn 1 now, Tim Holgate back underneath Christopher Demerit going down in turn 1. 2 lead changes. He's got us out front. 2 lead changes in 2 laps.
He got the lead going into turn 3. He dove to the inside, and that's something Demerit has not been willing to do down the back straightaway. So that's the thing. As long as Holgate can keep Demerit within the draft, Holgate has the car that can stick to the bottom. What a race this has turned out to be as we are coming to start lap 110 of 150.
And again, Demerit's now going to go back to the outside. Holgate won't make that mistake twice in a row. He now holds that inside line once again. Demerit's going to have to go the hard way if he wants to get himself the race lead here today. There's your movers and shakers. Jennings up 16 places. Holgate up 7. One person worth noting, Tim Doyle has fallen out of contention for the race win so far here, Andy.
Yeah, they really have. That group of like 3rd, 4th, and 5th on these green flag pit stops has really, really lost out. Even with Demerit and in some ways Holgate, as we had a car on the wall, I believe Tim Doyle was just in the wall.
He's okay.
He's okay, but he was in the wall.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was made him a little more nervous than he would like. But yeah, they ever since the green flag pit stops, they have really, really lost this lead group, which is pretty interesting considering a lot of the experience you have in this fight for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You got Tim Doyle, you got Jonathan Goke, Joe Branch. There's a lot of experience in this group.
Lap number 118. Your magic lap is coming up soon. We're going to step aside whilst we have the opportunity. Back with more as we take you RaceSpotTV side by side.
I'm a engineer at iRacing. I put together vehicle models. Started earlier in the year with a partnership with Mazda and Long Road Racing Engineering, where they supplied us with access to the car data, access to their drivers to allow us to put together really high-level vehicle model, and it's turned out really well so far in the development stages.
These new MX-5
Ladies and gentlemen, we're under caution for the second time here today. Paul Jennings, number 74 machine, involved in an incident. Caution for the second time here today. Well, that one changes everything, Aaron.
Yes, it does, and the dirty air caught Jennings off a turn 4. That's what I said. You have to know you're going to be in trouble, but before the car. And good call to throw the yellow there with the car stranded on the outside of the front straightaway. But thing will, 118's the magic mark. Going to put us about 2 laps shy.
Take me down to the fuel-saved city where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. As Paul Jennings is going to head himself, you see, just up into the grey. As a consequence, hitting that safety barrier, he is out of this event. Well, Randy, you ready for fuel-saved city?
I sure am, although if we do get it's going to be interesting to see if people gamble and see if there's a yellow flag, because I think I'm at a point now, the end of the race is coming up and the entire field just got stacked up. People want to get out there and they want to get out front. There might be another incident a couple laps into this run, and in fact, it may even be worthwhile to just maybe even stay out, although I'm not so sure of that, one car is, but that might be a lap car.
I wouldn't say
Aaron's gonna scold me, though.
Oh, no, you stay out with dirty tires? No, you're going to lose the time. You're going to have to pit in 7 laps anyway. We're 1 yellow away from being able to make it the rest of the way. With only 12 cars on the lead lap, while 2 cars are going to get the wave around. So, no, you had to pit here. Had to pit.
But do you double pit? If you're Tim Doyle, do you come back in and top off at lap number 117?
If you're in the front, no. If you're in the back half of the field, nothing to lose, as it's going to be a close battle off pit road. I think Demerit's going to retake the lead, but no, you cannot take that gamble to go back to 10th, because if we get another yellow, we're going to be good to go the rest of the way. So if you're running 9th, 10th, pit, absolutely. But if you're up front, the risk outweighs the reward. Now, if it pays off, then you're going to make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. But right now, I think the risk is way too worth it.
I'll tell you one thing, Aaron, is that people's been laughing at my ideas of strategy for a long time. As you can see, Demerit easily wins the race off a pit road there. We're showing it to you on your RaceSpotTV replay, brought to you by And1 Design, the official graphics partner of RaceSpotTV, as we are deep now into this event. And Christopher Demerit continues to lead the way. Going to stop aside for just one moment. We'll be back with more after this.
I'm an engineer at iRacing. I put together vehicle models. Started earlier in the year with a partnership with Mazda and Long Road Racing Engineering, where they supplied us with access to the car data, access to their drivers to allow us to put together really high-level vehicle model, and it's turned out really well so far in the development stages.
These new MX-5s are incredible. Between the BF Goodrich tire and then all the suspension engineering that Long Road Racing and that Mazda has done, I've been very fortunate to be one of the lead development drivers for the new Global MX-5 Cup car. We've done a lot of R&D on not only suspension, but things that will not only improve the safety of the vehicle for racing, but also the longevity of it in a racing environment. A couple fun aspects have been for us, not only on the suspension development side, but the virtual world side with iRacing, actually mirroring some of the same, for instance, damper settings or brake pad changes that we've made for different compounds and such, and then we'll actually mirror that in iRacing. It's incredible to me how similar both when we're driving the car on the test day and then we're on the sim, that we're actually able to make changes in iRacing to the damper valving, and it correlates exactly to our findings on the racetrack.
It was quite interesting. It was sort of the first time in iRacing where we developed a car in the sim along with the manufacturer and a race team. Generally speaking, a team or a manufacturer will send us a data dump of information covering everything from tires to aero if the car is set up that way, all the mechanical bits. The big difference is those cars are generally already in production or already racing, and this go around it was essentially from scratch. When Long Road Racing received their cars, we started getting our first bits of data, And as they got more data, we got more data, and we were able to go back and forth in the sim and compare with how the car performs on the racetrack.
Back to green here, ladies and gentlemen, RaceSpotTV. We do apologise for that. Chris with the mirror, side by side, 3 wide, in towards turn number 3. And oh my word, Aaron, this is close.
Tim Doyle to the lead on the inside, and on the restart, Holgate either misjudged it or spun the tires, but he is down to 5th. But this could be a strategy call. If you're the furthest car back, you're going to save more fuel, and by my calculations, we're going to be 3 laps short, but these drivers are going to have to trim it down. So this is almost going to be like the Tour de France on trying to push your competitor to the lead and you yourself saving some energy. So lots of gamemanship coming up, and anybody in the top 10 can win as SPT makes a pass on Demerit, slows up. What reaction skills by Demerit there not to get into the back.
Yeah, talking about Tim, go ahead.
You go.
Okay, I'll go again. Talking about Tim Holgate, though, again, like you said, he dropped off like a rocket at the start of that, but we talked about it at the beginning of the race. Tim Holgate's one who he will just sit behind you, and he will just save fuel. So I think Tim Holgate right now is a huge favorite in this situation where we might be short.
Well, we also know that Tim Doyle is a master of strategy, and actually, you got yourself 2 different options here. You either save fuel behind and pounce at the end of this event, Aaron, or what you do is you go to the front of the field and you manage the field speed.
Yeah, so many options here, which right now I think Doyle and SPT are full tilt. Let's see what the lap times are. Doyle crosses the line. He's going to be passed on the outside of 32.1, so they are definitely running full mixture. SPT to the outside, side by side for the lead, and with this gap between first and second, going back to third, I do think we have alternate fuel strategies going on. Front 2 are betting for the yellow. Third on back are thinking we may go the rest of the way, and I should have checked, but I do wonder if anybody did come in and top off on the 1 to green. I will go check that in the pit notes.
Well, it's worth noting here that Tim Doyle and Austin SPT have been side by side for a good couple of corners, and well, you don't get the full effect of the draft in those circumstances, Randy, because of the fact that you are running full on. Those guys behind, Demerit, Holgate, Branch, etc., they are in the tow. Yes, they're not right behind, but they are getting the effect of the slipstream in all lanes.
Yeah, they certainly are. Like you said about the slipstream, once you get up to that outside, you're not going to be getting any slipstream through the corners. And the way that they're racing is Austin SPT's going to look on the inside of Tim Doyle here going into turn number 1. And I believe he might be able to make the pass here. And he makes the pass before the corner. Tim Doyle may be realizing that he needs to save a little bit of fuel as well. Just lets Austin SPT by.
Strategic there, Aaron, by Tim Doyle.
Oh, if there's anybody that's, I mean, it is a toss-up in terms of who I would nominate for the greatest IndyCar strategy driver of all time. It would be a toss-up between Holgate, Doyle, and Young O. Never question what they do, but Doyle back to the outside, so very close. Very, very close. Almost a miscommunication there of SPT not knowing where Doyle is, and here comes the crossover. Doyle gets a little loose out of turn 2 to the inside, and this is allowing Demerit and company to close up. Going back a lap ago, though, Holgate was almost underneath the rear wing of Demerit, so I think Holgate is in full fuel-saving mode.
Niles Anders on pit road there. You can see he's well down the field right now. 9.4 seconds, spinning under green. Will cost him about a lap, and side by side, battle for your race lead. Once again, 25 to go this time by. It's going to be Tim Doyle who has the advantage then through turn number 1, through turn number 2, down to the back straightaway. There will come once again, and well, SPT has the inside line. That inside line you think is a better way around the racetrack. Not here though at Auto Club. Sometimes you want to have yourself the outside line, as Demerit thrusts very high there. Out of turn number 3 and 4. That allowed Holgate down to the inside. Almost, though, caused an incident, Randy.
Yes, it was. Tim Doyle actually ended up leading that lap after SPT made that pass in 3 and 4. So, like you were saying, even though SPT got to the bottom, he scrubbed off so much speed that Tim Doyle was able to get a run going down that straightaway, was able to get the pass. He led that lap by 1,000th of a second, Will, and that's a little bit of that's what these racers really need to think about as they come getting to the end of this race. You know, last lap pass, even if you can get by in 3, as Tim Doyle wiggles a little bit, I believe he hit a bump in the track. Tim Holgate's getting ready to get up into this fight as well, and Christopher Demerit has dropped back to 5th.
Yeah, Demerit's been passed by Joe Branch. Joe Branch on the move. Ladies and gentlemen, visit rickmytech.com for and use the promo code ELITE for $20 off a $100 plus more order. RaceSpotTV, a proud sponsor of the iAdvance Indy Elite Series here on RaceSpotTV. Tony Halliman then on pit road. I think these are strategic here, Aaron. These guys are coming in knowing they can all go to the end of the race. They don't want strategy. They just want the opportunity to have a clear track as Tim Doyle leads now 7 laps in this event. SPT has led 3, but we've got ourselves now down to the inside. Where has Drew Branch come from?
Oh, this has seemed to be the Joe Branch way. Remember, he won the 16th Street Indy 500, and we didn't call his name out until the final 10 laps. So Joe Branch turning into a closer here in the IndyCar series. So Branch is in it. In fact, we have 6 cars all up in the front pack right now. Joe Flanagan is the tail end of this lead pack, but when it comes to fuel, any of these 6 drivers, or well, anybody on the lead lap could run. Looking at Jonathan Goke, he's 10 seconds behind. I think that strategy, we know he's a very aggressive driver. He likes to race, and if he's 10 seconds behind, I have to think he may be the only driver out there right now concerned about saving fuel.
Actually, talking about that gap, like you said, we were talking about SPT and Doyle being the ones gambling for the yellow. However, seeing that gap from 6th to 7th and then 7th on back to 8th and 9th, one has to wonder, are these top cluster of cars, are they all gambling for the yellow and everyone else back is gambling that it's going to stay green?
Andrew Consider is about the last person in that lead gaggle of cars. He's 3 times per second slower than your race leaders. If you look down at P number 8 and 9, Aaron, they're half a second a lap slower. That is enough to save fuel, but it's also going to put them in a very difficult situation come race end. On board with Tim Holgate then, right on the rear of Austin SPT.
If you have to save too much fuel and you're so slow, well, these cars that are running full tilt can pit and get out and still be in front of you. So you really have to weigh the options. But as we say, almost every fuel mileage race, whatever you choose, do it early and stick to it. You can't waffle, you can't flip. And Christopher Demerit coming into the pit, so obviously this is what he thinks is his only option to win this race.
Well, Demerit's then on towards pit road. He is gambling early. We know that our statistics will show you to be 2 laps short right now. This won't be a long stop at all. And in fact, though, you will have to take tyres, Randy, because you lock up there, coming from about 220 miles an hour down to 40. So he will likely take tyres, but that means that his stop will be about 7 seconds, no more.
Yeah, most certainly. And even though, like we said, this is going to be a short stop, just a little bit of gas, and then tires, and then let's see, where do these other cars come out? He's actually going to go a full lap down. So really, Christopher Demerit pitting here, he's really put himself in a very, very bad position if a yellow comes out. Because if a yellow comes out early, he's going to be stuck a lap down. He's going to have to take the wave around, and then from there, he may either have to not pit, at which point he'll be at the tail end of the longest line with old tires, or he'll have to pit, and even then, he's still at the back of the pack. So this is going to be a very, very interesting choice for Demerit. I almost think he maybe made the choice that won't win him this race.
Tim Holgate has slowed it down. A 32.2 last time by for Tim Holgate. Aaron, he's playing the fuel mileage card. Tim Doyle, Joe Branch, they're going gung-ho right now.
Didn't we see this at Homestead where we got down to where cars were running out coming to the checkered? That's where we are right now, which means any driver on the lead lap or potentially 1 lap down in the case of Demerit can win this race. We have 15 laps to go, and I know I wouldn't be willing to put any money on who's going to win this race because I know I have no idea.
Well, here are your top 8 then. Bottom of your screen as it stands. It is Doyle from Branch, from Holgate, from SPT, they are your top 4. Then Flanagan, Kinsella, Mazik, and Goke round out your top 8. It's very interesting to note, last time by, you had yourself Holloman, Holgate.
SPT entering the lane.
Doyle in the pits as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's just Holgate, or I don't think Holgate's even necessarily playing the fuel card either. I think this whole lead gaggle of cars we had were all playing the strategy of just going full tilt. I don't even think even Holgate was saving. I don't know if he can save enough going as slow as he was, or as fast as he was, rather.
Well, here comes Tim Doyle on towards pit road. Then he undershoots his pit block. That will hurt him a little bit. Pit stop time for Tim Doyle. Oh, 8.3, very slow pit stop for him. Back out on track. No, normally in GT world we won't talk about 1 second, but here, Randy, 1 second is everything.
Yeah, here when you're going 200, 250 miles an hour plus, 1 second is about the distance of a football field. So a second, 2 seconds, that's a very, very, very long time. Especially when you consider how close these fields are when they qualify. But this is going to be an interesting finish to the race. People like Joe Flanagan, Joe Branch, TJ Mazik, Andrew Kinsella, Jonathan Goke. If this race goes green, Holgate's hitting the lane as well. If it goes green, suddenly those guys are the ones that are the favorites to win this race.
Joe Branch on pit road, Andrew Kinsella on pit road. You can see that the pit stop time for Kinsella was a 7.1 second stop. For the driver of Joe Branch, 8 second stop. On pit road is Tim Holgate. He don't think he can make it. 12 laps to go. Fresh tyres are a premium here, and it really now is game time.
I would have thought you would have wanted to run the fuel tank dry, because if a yellow comes out, you would have had all those drivers a lap down. So, I don't know if I were Holgate, I would have stayed out hoping for the yellow to trap everybody else 1 lap down. So let's see where Holgate and Demerit comes out. Here comes Demerit. He is going to get around. So Demerit's strategy, at least for the drivers that have pitted, has paid off.
Yeah, Demerit's actually got himself a big advantage over Tim Holgate right now. Flanagan on pit road then. So the ludicrous speed driver, he doesn't think he can make it. Pit stop time for him out and away in 7.4 seconds. Now it's TJ Mazik and John Goke. Goke, 34-second lap last time by. He is holding on for dear life with 11 to go here, Andy.
Oh, he certainly is, and you say that, and you might say, oh, well, he's struggling for fuel. He needs to see a yellow flag. The last thing he wants to see is a yellow flag. Because right now, almost all these cars that were in the lead group are almost a full lap down. He's got basically a 10-second. It's 9 seconds currently between him and Demerit. Like you said, Demerit's running 32-second laps. Goke's running 34. Goke is in full fuel save mode right now.
Well, he doesn't want to see a fuel. He doesn't want to see a caution until lap number 136, Aaron.
That's true. TJ Mazik, though, let's say he is our race leader, so there's 11 seconds between him and Goke, and only 7 seconds between Goke and Demerit. So Goke, in terms of saving fuel, which Mazik running 32.9, so he's running a little bit more fuel than Goke, but Goke has to measure what is he running and what is Demerit running, do the math, divide it by 10, and that's how much time he can afford to lose each lap.
What's interesting is, could Goke possibly be oversaving early so that he could drive hard at the end?
Yes.
Very good point.
Often
Absolutely.
you want to do that. You'd rather have full power at the end of the race than having to basically coast on fuels at the end. 20 laps, less than 20 laps to go. In fact, we're less than 10 laps to go now in this event. Number 29 machine leads the way. Last time by 32.2. Mazik, if he's got this one sorted out here, Aaron, this will be a miracle for him. But then you've got Jonathan Goke at 33.2 last time by, 31.9 for Demerit. Demerit will get ahead of Goke as it stands on the racetrack.
And unless Goke, as Demerit gets closer, adds more fuel to the car. Meanwhile, Mazik has slowed down a 33.3, 7 laps to go. If he wins this would be one of the, my memory, one of the highest movers. TJ Mazik qualified 27th, currently our race leader.
27th. He didn't run a time.
So maybe an incident in qualifying, so he started 27th, so that would be one of the biggest improvements I can see, but 14 miles to go this time, and is there enough fuel in the tank to get him there?
Well, last time by 33.3. Let's see what he does then. as he works himself past start-finish line. In fact, it's worth listening in for a moment to that driver of TJ Mazek. Let's listen in. Definitely fuel saving there. Definitely fuel saving, Randy.
Yeah, he definitely is. And the other thing we need to be thinking about right now is Goke. Goke was our other option for being a big fuel saver, and the gap from him to DeMerritt right now is only 2 seconds on the racetrack. So if Goke was saving, he needs to start turning it up to full wick pretty much right now. Otherwise, it's going to be all for naught. Well, at least in terms of possibly for the win. Mazek is the one, like we were saying. If he's able to pull this off, it would be a masterstroke. It would be, I think, the first time I've ever seen someone never qualify in one of these big races and manage to come back and get the win. That would be a net gain of 26th position.
Yeah,
Of course, Will.
Go.
Of course, thinking back to 2011, you can be leading in the final laps, but if you don't win, next race we're not really going to remember what happened to you.
Talking about J.R. Hildebrand there.
No. That other driver, maybe from Belgium. Nobody really.
Oh, yes. Mr. Baguette.
Yeah, you can be leading in the 190s, but unless you pull it off, it's going to be all for naught.
Yeah, as we can see there, down in your pack, you got side-by-side Tim Doyle, Joe Bryant, while they are currently out of picture for winning the race here for the number 28 machine. Still battling it hard with the driver of Tim Doyle. The battle out front, it's worth paying attention to. Last time by 33.8 for TJ Mazek, 34.8 for Mazek last time by. He is in proper save mode right now, 32.4 for Jonathan Goke. DeMerritt right behind him. 1 second between Goke and DeMerritt. Although Goke has picked up the pace all of a sudden here, Randy.
Yeah, he certainly has. Obviously, we were seeing Goke very, very early on running those 33.5s, 34 zeros. Mazek, however, was running basically full tilt. However, now it's almost flip-flop. Now Goke's out here going as fast as he can because he sees DeMerritt in his mirror. Mazek's out there saving as hard as he can. So we are actually seeing several different strategies here and coming towards the end of this race. If we manage to stay green, they're going to all be on the same piece of racetrack all at the same time, because here in 2 laps, yeah, it's a 3.3 second gap now, running 2 seconds per lap slower. Once we get to lap 150, Mazek's going to be getting passed up by Goke and DeMerritt.
Yeah,
Mazek has a draft partner.
Look at this clock, though. It's come down dramatically. From 4 seconds, he's losing. Mazek is going to lose the race lead in the next mile or so of this event, because DeMerritt right on the rear of Goke. Goke on the rear of Mazek. Goke to the race lead then with just 2 laps to go here, Dern. This is fantastic finish to this event. 2 laps to go. Oh, look at that one. Oh, my word. Christopher DeMerritt there will breeze himself to the race lead. Christopher DeMerritt, as Goke comes on towards pit road, he hasn't got it. 1 lap to go. Christopher DeMerritt will win this race unless anything crazy will happen here. Oh my word in goodness. Christopher DeMerritt will see the white flag. Jonathan Goke comes on towards pit road. TJ Mazek is staying on track here. A 3rd place may well be what he can get here, but Goke has to come on towards pit road. DeMerritt then through turn number 3 for the final time. He will come. The number 144 machine of Christopher DeMerritt will win out on strategy just like at Homestead. Christopher DeMerritt will win here in the iAdvanced Motorsports Indy Elite Series, and Goke is out of fuel.
Yeah, Goke didn't hit the pit lane. He just decided just to coast it all the way to the end.
Well, hitting the pits or not, he was going to get the same amount of laps. So for Goke, a 13th place finish. Strategy fails. That is heartbreaking. And when it works out, well, TJ Mazek ran out of fuel on the last lap, so he's going to come home in 10th. So, it can come down to just a few drops in the tank from being on the podium to absolute sheer heartbreak.
Let's have a look then to show you what happened to Christopher DeMerritt as he worked himself through the field. You can see Jonathan Goke is just ahead of him. It all happened so quickly. You had TJ Mazek slowing down at a rate of 3 seconds a lap. Jonathan Goke was slowing down, sputtering for fuel as well. We're on board then with Christopher DeMerritt. This is the lap to victory for him. There you can see past TJ Mazek Then you can see Jonathan Goke running out of fuel. They actually touch at one point almost, but Demerit will win out here at Fontana. Randy, this is why I love strategy races.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely an insane thing to watch. And while yeah, we may have gotten a more pure finish if everyone was able to just go out there and run full tilt. I mean, we got people up in the top 10 who we didn't talk about all race. TJ Mazik, I don't even think we talked about him when we went through the grid simply because he didn't start put down a time. He started dead last, as deep as he could in the field, and he came home with a top 10 finish. Jonathan Goke, similar story. He was deep in the field a lot of the race, and really towards the end of that, he was able to make a really good gamble, get himself out front. Something we didn't notice, though, Austin Espiti also ran out of gas. Instead of finishing up in the top 3 or 4, he got pushed back to P8.
Wow, what a race here. Let's run yourself through your final race results from this, the Indy Elite Series on RaceSpotTV. What a race it's been here today, and let's show you your final race results. As you can see, Demerit wins out then from Holgate by 7 tenths per second. Tim Doyle will round out your podium. Tim Doyle, of course, pitted early. Him and Branch did the strategy. They tried to close up, but they weren't close enough. Of course, they lost out through the early tyre advantage from Christopher Demerit. Then Flanagan in 5th, Holloman in 6th, Kinsella, Espiti, Anders, and Mazzy. Where did Anders come from all of a sudden there, Randy?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, talking about the end of this race. Niles Anders managed to get himself up there in the P9. He started 21st. If you look through our top 10, 3 of our finishers in the top 10 started outside or just inside of the top 20. Joe Flanagan finished 5th, started 20th. Niles Anders started 21st, finished 9th. TJ Mazix, 27th, finished 10th. This is a race of movers, really.
And shakers.
And shakers.
There we are. And they can see the rest of your field up on your screen. Let's step aside then for a moment. We'll be back with post-race interviews after these messages. You're watching RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacingLive.
I'm Eric Hudek. I'm an engineer at iRacing. I put together vehicle models. Started earlier in the year with a partnership with Mazda and Long Road Racing Engineering, where they supplied us with access to the car data, access to their drivers to allow us to put together really high-level vehicle model, and it's turned out really well so far in the development stages.
These new MX-5s are incredible. Between the BF Goodrich tire and then all the suspension engineering that Long Road Racing and that Mazda has done, I've been very fortunate to be one of the lead development drivers for the new Global MX-5 Cup car. We've done a lot of R&D on not only suspension, but things that will not only improve the safety of the vehicle for racing, but also the longevity of it in a racing environment. A couple fun aspects have been for us, not only on the suspension development side, but the virtual world side with iRacing, actually mirroring some of the same, for instance, damper settings or brake pad changes that we've made for different compounds and such, and then we'll actually mirror that in iRacing. It's incredible to me how similar both when we're driving the car on the test day and then we're on the sim, that we're actually able to make changes in iRacing to the damper valving, and it correlates exactly to our findings on the racetrack.
It was quite interesting. It was sort of the first time in iRacing where we developed a car in the sim along with the manufacturer and a race team. Generally speaking, a team or a manufacturer will send us a data dump of information covering everything from tires to aero if the car is set up that way, all the mechanical bits. The big difference is those cars are generally already in production or already racing, and this go around it was essentially from scratch. When Long Road Racing received their cars, we started getting our first bits of data, and as they got more data, we got more data, and we were able to go back and forth in the sim and compare with how the car performs on the racetrack.
get paid for this shit.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to post-race coverage here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacingLive from round number 3 of the iAdvanced Motorsports Indy Elite Series, where Christopher Demera wins out and he stood by with Aaron Likens.
Christopher Demera, I don't know if I've seen a race that had more twists and turns in the final third than this race. You pitted early. Was that your race-winning move on the final stop?
Yeah, I was looking at during that final stint. I just kept getting passed and passed. I wasn't as good in the draft as I wanted it to be, but I was looking at the times they were running, and I figured if I pit then and there, I'd gain maybe 2/10 a lap, which is huge. And made the decision to pit early despite all the fuel I had in the car, and I guess it paid off.
2 questions. 1, did you have any thought of, on that final restart, making it the entire way? And 2, did you think the cars that did stay out, did you think they could make it?
Yeah, initially I was trying to run through my head numbers to see, alright, how slowly do I think I could go and make the run. But a few laps into the actual green flag run, I figured I wasn't going to be able to actually do that. So my mind switched to when I wanted to pit to top off on the rest of the field. But once I pit, I figured that I was gaining too much on people for them to make it and stay out. I was watching the split times on John and TJ the whole time. I could tell I was catching John in time, but TJ, I was hoping TJ didn't have enough fuel, but I was just waiting on that one.
Now, before that last yellow, you and Holgate ran side by side for 40 laps or so. Was that a fun time?
It was fun to look back on, but it wasn't fun at the time because I knew that at that point I was just holding on for time because I knew if I lost that side by side, I was gonna get in the aero push and I was just gonna go backwards, which is what ended up happening a few laps later. But it was enjoyable to look back upon, but I was really hoping I could get around.
Well, you end Holgate's perfect season winning here this evening. Who do you like to thank?
Definitely got to thank everyone at Broken Arrow. Definitely put together a great car. Definitely a lot of power and knowledge gone into this one, and I got to thank all of them.
Oh, well, that is Christopher Demera and what turned out to be one of the more dramatic wins we've seen in quite some time.
Oh, yes, indeed. He had a fantastic win. However, there are people behind him who are looking to try and get themselves up through the field. Tim Holgate is here. Tim, it was close, but not quite close enough. Talk us through the strategy from your perspective. How hard do you think it would have been to try and save fuel?
Yeah, fuel saving wasn't going to be possible. I mean, we ended up taking a full bag of fuel in that last stop, the second to last stop, just because we wanted to cover the possibility of the yellow in case we wanted to stay out and not take tires, or maybe be able to short fill when everybody else was having to take more fuel. But it didn't really save us too much time because the amount of time it takes to take tires was about the same amount. It was longer than it took to take the 3 gallons of fuel we did take. So, all in all, it was a good strategy. We were able to stay up front or near the front, even though everybody else was lighter on fuel. So I can't knock it. I mean, we were covering a lot of different scenarios there. But Chris just ran a great race. He got into clean air after his last stop and was able to crank out some faster laps than we were doing on the older tires. And at the end, it felt like, if we had another 2 laps, we would have been back in a situation we were in earlier in the race. We were swapping for the lead, so it was, just a case where we just didn't have quite enough time.
Later on, it seemed after that final pit stop, you just didn't have enough to really close up to Christopher Demera. In hindsight, would you have followed him onto pit road?
No, definitely not, because I didn't know where we were going to end up traffic-wise. If he'd end up in the back of the pack in a bunch of slower traffic and had to deal with them, then it wouldn't have worked out nearly as well. We had a good car in traffic, so it wouldn't have hurt us too bad, but I didn't want to take that risk. I didn't want to take that risk of being back in traffic and being involved in something that causes a yellow.
Tim Holgate coming home second place here today. Third place, Tim Doyle, in what again was a strategy call early here, Randy. You'll sit by with him.
I'm sorry, I was talking to my mom who just
You're
got home.
talking to Tim Doyle. Open your pie hole and ask him questions.
All right, Tim Doyle, you managed to move yourself. Well, in true Tim Doyle fashion, you didn't qualify particularly well, and then you finished up near up out of the front. How'd you manage to do that?
Yeah, Randy, it's I don't know what I got to do in qualifying. I run the same set as my teammates, and they out qualify me every week. But that's just something I deal with. I don't worry about that too much. The race set's always good, so I was kind of surprised there early. I was able to go through the pack and get up to the top 5, and just basically rode there. So I was happy to have that track position early in the race.
Early on that final restart, it seemed like you and Austin were really the two who kind of decided to go full tilt and gamble for the yellow at first. But then when you realized you couldn't make it, you obviously hit the pits relatively early. You guys were some of the first ones to do it. What was your reasoning for trying to gamble for the yellow?
Well, just the way the race played out there. I didn't think I was going to be able to get to the lead there. Just the opportunity presented itself, so I went for it. And then we were all on different strategies. Nobody knew what anyone was going to do, and nobody really knew what was going to work. Going the distance or pitting early, pitting no tires. So I just went 50-50 on fuel and just went balls to the wall, trying to stay out front. But Chris outsmarted us.
All right, so that's Tim Doyle who came home third place. Tim, you got anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank Foyt Family Wines, the team, Tim and Niles and Scott. Everybody did a really good job building a great set this week. I want to thank RaceSpot for broadcast and IM simulators, the Elite League, everything.
All right, congratulations again to Tim Doyle for working his way through the field, getting himself up into that P3. And Will, I'm going to toss it back over to you.
Indeed, so we've got a couple of people left to talk to. We're going to do rapid fire. Joe Flanagan, the number 5 in this event. Ludicrous Speed here today. Talk us through your race.
Qualified terrible, tagged the wall, started 20th, was just hoping for a top 10 finish. But during that first stint, I was able to pass a few cars, got up to around 12th or 13th. Figured I had a pretty good car and just kept making it up through the field there. It worked out pretty good for us there at the end.
Late race, splash and dash. How do you think it was going to go? Are you happy with where you came with the splash and dash situation? Because the field opened up a little bit at the end. It seemed if you came on early, you're better because, of course, of fresh tyres. But, of course, it was a risky situation.
I'm thrilled with how that worked out. I think I was running about 7th when the caution came out, and I didn't split it evenly. I gave myself a little extra fuel just in case something happened, so I was just hanging on to the draft there for a while because the guys in front of me were light on fuel. So I stayed out a few extra laps, and I knew I would have been about 3 or 4 laps short if I'd have tried to stretch it. And I know there's some guys in this league that like to try that work and try to make that work, and some of them, it didn't work out for them, so I was able to pass them right there at the very end and make it up to 5th.
Well done on getting yourself P number 5 there, Joe Flanagan in the Ludicrous Speed car. Aaron, you did have Ludicrous Speed, but you do stand by right now with the driver of Andrew Kinsella, who came home in that number 14 machine, down in P number 7.
Yep, 7th place, Andrew Kinsella. Take us to the race, 7th place.
Well, I started P10, fell back at the beginning of the race. Car wasn't good enough in traffic for me to make enough progress, but I slowly worked my way up the field into the top 10, and then just sort of hung there for most of the race until all heck sort of broke loose with about 30 to go, 35 to go. I, like Joe, took just a little bit extra fuel on that second to last stop. I had about a lap and a half left after the last stop, so I managed to pick up a few positions as the cars were running out of fuel in front of me. But overall, very satisfied with this race, and definitely something to build on.
Something to build on, I believe. But a Phoenix. Looking forward to that track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very different than Auto Club Speedway, but hopefully we can put together a set. The Powerside Motorsports boys can help me with that and get something good going for Phoenix.
Well, that's Andrew Kinsella, 7th place, which here tonight was a very good finish.
Indeed, he had a good finish there in P number 7. We've got TJ Mazik, who we're having a quick chat with as well in just one moment's time, once we actually figure out what's going on with our pretty TV screens here. But in terms of this race so far, as we said, it's been absolutely fantastic. We've spoken to Christopher Demerit already, of course. Let's talk to TJ Mazik, and Randy is stood by with him.
All right, TJ, you managed to come home in the top 10, and we're actually a pretty big player and had a chance to win the race if a yellow came out there at the end. Now, you started 27th place, didn't even put in a lap. What was your decision behind that?
It wasn't really a decision so much as it was a wall. I don't know what happened.
A good, sturdy, well-founded decision.
The wall was very sturdy. It was enough to stop me quickly. So I just made a mistake in qualifying. So we decided to start at the back and see how it went.
Now, from starting that deep in the field, were you expecting to find yourself up at the potential winner of the race if luck had gone your way and you caught a yellow flag? You were ahead of Goku, the other one that was really saving hard. And if that yellow would have came out, you would have won the race. So was that anything you were even expecting, or?
After that last yellow, I knew I was a couple laps short, the last car on the lead lap. So at that point, everybody in the top 10 was pretty even. I don't think I was going to move up very many spots, so my best shot was to just gamble and try to save the fuel. It just didn't quite work out for me.
All right, well, still a very good race for you, getting yourself up 17 positions. Anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh, sure. I'd like to thank Joe and iAdvance for putting on a great series. I'm having a blast. Glad to finally finish a race. Thank the rest of Team RFC for the help and the work we put in to build these sets. And most of all, thank the almighty creator for giving us all a chance to do this stuff, period.
All right, and that there is TJ Mazik coming home in the 10th position. And Will, back to you.
Indeed. Well, we are almost at the end, but Aaron, it's worth noting, 2 cautions here today. Ironically, the only 2 times we went to commercial under green, we came back to a caution.
Yeah, so if that isn't commentator's curse, would that be broadcaster's curse?
Yes.
But only 2 yellows, which, okay, don't blame the broadcasters. It wasn't us. But only 2 yellows, which laid a canvas for just amazing art on display here today with side-by-side racing strategy. And anytime you have 10 laps to go and you have no idea who's going to win, it's fun to be in that race, if not, well, kind of frantic to be in that race. A little stressful, but for his broadcasters, makes for an excellent show. And it seems every IndyCar race we do, Will, gets better and better. And the road to the Indy 500 with these races, just when we get to that, I expect a 4-wide finish at the rate we're going.
It's worth noting as well, Randy, that the next track we go to, Phoenix, completely different animal. Now, some will be thinking it will be a caution fest, but we know if you get green flag running at Phoenix, it can be fantastic. You want an example? The last round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, green from start to end.
Yeah, Phoenix is obviously one of those tracks, or at least for these IndyCar, it's their version of short track racing. They're going to be out there doing 200 miles an hour plus on that 1 mile tri-oval. And it's going to be tight, and it's going to be fun. Drivers are going to need to be driving tidy, rather, and they have to be working those. They're going to have to be working those in-car tools constantly throughout the run, and it's definitely going to be something that's interesting to see.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, it's got Goodyear.
10-4.
Yeah,
that's me.
Aaron, next time out, Phoenix. It is a short track. These guys and their tools and their driving and their setups. So important.
Yeah, take what we saw today, and well, I think we will see the strategy component. You see 3-wide in turn 1. Well, I think if we're at commercial, it will most certainly end in a yellow. Not going to see the 3-wide. Then again, as what we've been seeing, who knows what we're going to be seeing there. Which, of course, the Real Life Verizon IndyCar Series will be there April 2nd, so we'll get to see how that plays out. But this series, I'm expecting some great side-by-side racing from the last time IndyCar was there. Much more banking, so it should be a great show.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for here tonight, here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacingLive for round number 3 of the iAdvance Indy Elite Series. iAdvance Motorsports Indy Elite Series on RaceSpotTV. Streaming live also on iRacingLive. Thank you so much to everyone who's been a part of our broadcast here tonight. I'm Will Vincent. That's been Aaron Likens. That's been Randy Chenworth. We shall talk to you all next time.